Welcome. Let's open a new panel, the second this morning. Now we are going to talk about an industry that apparently may be seen as attracting less investment. I'm talking about facilitating investments and fundraising for startups, which is key for the innovation and development of disruptive projects and technologies. TechTour collaborates with big port authorities such as Port of Barcelona, really next to us here in Montjuic, and really next in order to stimulate the process where capital and value-added knowledge are needed to promote development. This is especially true in what we call less sexy or traditional industries. We have here with us the CEO of this company, of TechTour. He's William Stevens, and he's going to guide us through the secrets of this industry. So, all yours, whenever you want. Welcome, and thank you.
Well, good morning, and welcome to all of you. And we hope to have an interactive discussion, so please, I'm going to look at you when you do have questions, when we're about 20 minutes into the session. Please raise your hand. Yes, I think the logistics industry, or trade and logistics industry, has less attracted investment, and we are going to discuss this actually with two innovation leaders of two leading ports. First of all, we have Carles Rua, Director of Innovation of the Port of Barcelona. Port of Barcelona is just a few miles away from here. It is the leading port in the Mediterranean, and we are having worked actually quite a lot because we did a tech tour, first tech tour, maritime trade and logistics last 2 days here, also the last day here in the SIL. And next to Carles, we have Roy Avrahimi, who is the Director of Innovation of the Port of Ashdod, which is the leading port in Israel. So before I hand over to Carles to explain us a bit how the port sees the evolution of innovation and the importance of innovation and investment in the logistics industry and in general to facilitate trade, we're going to see a short, very impressive video, because I've seen it before, of the Port of Barcelona and its innovation activities. So if the organizers can show the video. Carles, this is a great video.
Yeah.
And I know behind the video is much more and very big ambitions. Could you tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, we consider that the Port of Barcelona is quite an innovative port, no, from since the past. But during the last years, the innovation model has changed. Now we have to talk about open innovation, about sustainable innovation. That means not to work just by yourself in innovation topics, but also you have to work with other partners in this trip. No, you have to work with startups, you have to work with research center, with universities, you have to work with your ecosystem. The definition we have said is that Barcelona is a very, it's one of the most impressive cities in terms of innovation in Europe and in the world. So the Port of Barcelona cannot compete with the city of Barcelona in that way. So what we have to do is to help the innovation of the city, the ecosystem of the city, to see the sea and to look at what we are doing in logistic terms and in maritime terms, and let them help us to innovate. So we are innovative, but we have to change our model, and that's what we are trying to do now.
Port of Barcelona is a landlord, if you wish, with prime assets, which is of course part of almost of the city, but it's yours. So you have actually many customers, many partners. You have of course the carriers. You have those operators that operate the trade and the debarkation of all the trade. Could you tell us a little bit more if they are also looking for innovation and what the role is going forward of the port from a plan to actually making a future plan, to making an innovation plan, to facilitating actually a real concrete project?
Well, it is true what it has been said, that the sector is not sexy for innovation, it's not quite attractive. But I think that things are changing. With the pandemics, with the disruptions that we are having now, people are realizing that the logistics is quite important. People are realizing when at the first stage of the pandemics, when everybody was in a lockdown and everyone was confined, the supermarkets were still having things. The only thing that had a problem was the toilet paper. I don't know why, But we had to find everything. It was possible to find everything in the supermarkets, the logistic wars. The stevedore companies were considered essential services. The truck drivers were essential service. So everyone noticed that logistics was more sexy than it seemed before, And I think that with that and the accelerated digitalization of the sector, now we are starting to be more sexy, more attractive for investors, for the startups to work in our sector.
So Tector, together with Port of Barcelona and also Barcelona Activa, which is the innovation agency here in the city of Barcelona, we organized this Tector, and this was the first time we did Tector. Actually, we have a few of the entrepreneurs sitting in the room here, so we're very pleased to see them back. So we did a call together actually for startups. I mean, startups in a broad sense. Could you tell a bit more, Carlos, the applications that you've seen, the companies that we've seen in the last 2 days? Let's not pick on them who are in the room, but generally, what was your perception of the potential of these startups to go from an innovation evolution to an innovation revolution?
Okay, I think that we have many fields in which innovation can be applied in the logistics sector. Now there is a huge pain point that is the question that our shippers are asking to the ports. It's where is my container? So the track and trace of the cargo is one of the key points. Also, we have to take into account that in a logistics service we are working many agents together, the shipper, the consignee, the transport company, the forwarding agent, the shipping agent, the ship owner. Many people are working to get the cargo from the origin to the destination. And one of the main problems is the collaboration and the integration of all the information of all the actors that are working in this sector together to get a final solution and to give the cargo right in the right moment, in the right place, to the right customer in the best way possible. So this is for me the two main elements where digitalization has to help in the synchronization of the operations and to give traceability of our cargo.
Mm-hmm. So of course the pandemic has made the supply chain a real challenge, I think, for many companies, both those promising to deliver to customers or those needing to produce. Collaboration, as you say, is very important. Of course, if you ship in the ports, It has to be a global solution. You can't just ship, oh, let's do this in the Mediterranean, although it would be nice. It was maybe a long time ago, like this, 2,000 years ago, but the globalization changed everything. Could you say a little more, Carlos, about the third challenge, which is climate change? And of course, trade generally is, of course, a polluter, a net polluter. How this is affecting the...
This is the big challenge, not only for ports, but for all of us, no, as a society. First of all, you have to say that the maritime transport is the more sustainable transport that exists at this moment, okay? The maritime transport contributes to about 3% of all the global greenhouse gases emissions, but it implies the movement of the 90% of the international traffic. So 90% of the international traffic, but only 3% of the emissions of the world CO2 equivalent emissions. No? But we have to work hard in order to reduce this 3%, to go to zero emissions. No? And what ports are working now is mainly in three directions. The first one is electrification. The Port of Barcelona, as an example, has a project to spend more than 110 million euros in the electrification of the wharves. In that way, when the vessels arrive to the port, they have to connect with the electric grid, and they will not need to burn fossil fuels. The second one, a little bit further in time, is the change of the fuels, to move from the traditional fossil fuels to renewable energy. That means hydrogen, green hydrogen, that means ammonia or methanol manufactured from the green hydrogen itself. No? But this is a movement that will take many, many years, in fact. No? The third element is the production of energy itself. The ports are big areas where you can, in the Port of Barcelona, we will install solar panels in order to produce energy, because unfortunately there are no wind in Barcelona, but a lot of sun, but no wind, no tides, no waves. So the only way to get energy is through the sun. And that's what we will do. Other ports, they can install windmills, they can install systems to get energy from the tides or the waves and so on. But the production of energy is the third element that we will develop in order to contribute to the sustainability.
These are great initiatives, and also I love the statistic of 3% of emissions and 90% of trade. I think it's something the port should be saying more, because at the end of the day, public perception is really important. Let's switch to Roy. Roy is the Director of Innovation of Port of Ashdod, as I mentioned, leading port in Israel. Israel, for those who are investment, innovation, startups, it's called a startup nation. By far the most active in terms of number of startups, number of scale-ups, attracting investment, going public on stock markets, particularly in NASDAQ. Before Roy, I'm going to ask him to explain what the Port of Ashdod is doing in innovation space. We're also going to see a short video. I'm asking the organizers to put up the video.
Centuries ago, seaports were portals to discoveries in a boundless and unfamiliar world. Today, the world is small, connected, and undergoing a digital revolution. 80% of all the world's commodities are being shipped across oceans, and seaports are the most vital links in a global network of cross-border trade. In this global grid, Israel's national port is the beating heart of the startup nation's economy and the perfect starting point for a new age of discoveries in the digital era. The port's innovation greenhouse is attracting dozens of new startups each year, for whom the port's diverse infrastructure provides the ultimate testing and proving grounds for new technologies in fields such as operations, logistics, energy, safety, and cyber. Entrepreneurs benefit from a comprehensive support envelope that enables seamless implementation of new ideas in the port's infrastructure and beyond. direct links to Israel's government and financial institutions, global ports, shipping companies, and international trade agreements provide investors with unprecedented exposure across the globe and across industries. It's time to make a smart move and join the new age of digital exploration at Ashdod Port, your portal for innovation.
Roy, I like the from port to portal. It's a very nice slogan, but I'm sure, again, there is more behind the slogan. Please tell us what you're doing.
No, actually, it's not only a slogan, it's a strategy, because Ashdod Port is the biggest port in Israel. It's a national port, but in this day, we are facing a big competition, one with TIL, a sister of MSC. In this day, the biggest shipping company in the world. They just compete with Maersk. And of course, SIPG, you know, the Chinese. I think it's the first terminal that operate outside of China. It's in Israel. And of course, they have Costco, that it means that we have two big clients that live in us. So our new strategy is to shift him for being the biggest port in Israel to the smartest port in Israel. And actually, it's mean that we are going to adopt startups and just implement them in the ports, but we're going to find pain points and actually going to find a solution in our ecosystem, the startup nation, and trying to solve our problem and other ports' problem globally, because the operation is more of the same. When I spoke with Carlos, we just understood that we have the same problems. So if I'm going to solve my problem, it could be that maybe I can solve other ports' problem.
Mm-hmm. And how are you practically going to do that? So Startup Nation welcoming startups, how does it work? I mean, what is concretely, who is a startup in the room? Could you put up, or a company in the room? Could you put up your hand? 1, 2. We have an investor who has a portfolio of startups over there. So what are you, how could it help the startups here?
So actually, we are come to this, we need to know where we are strong and what is our weakness. So let's say that we are sitting on international infrastructure, okay? So it means that we have amazing sandbox for the startup to check, you know, because the PowerPoint, you can just present whatever you want, but actually you need to put boots on the ground and check your product. And the other thing...
So it's a proof of concept. That's
yeah, we are just, we are provide a proof of concept, but that we are just open our doors, but more than that, we are just engage our employers, because they are expertise to operating ports, okay? Because, and then the ports, our port actually become a design partners, because sometimes the entrepreneur sure that his technology is the best, cutting edge and everything. But when he come, you know, to the ports, and then he see that it's a lot of problems that raising up. Even if the technology is good and he want to sell it to the ports, he need to speak with the workers. He need to speak with the unions. He need to understand that the inside political in the ports. It's very important, because if you want to make a business, actually, so you need to think about all of that. And
so it's a co-development that you're offering.
Exactly. And if we are speaking about business development, this is we are just had a great contract with 500 Startup Global. They are one of the biggest accelerators in the world. They are sitting in the Silicon Valley, and they have 77 programs around the world. And it's the first time of them in the maritime field. So they actually give the startup like the business plan, give some mentors around the world to actually that we want to make sure that this startup going to succeed, and just, you know, go all through the POC, and then we're going to have a good investment as well.
Mm-hmm. And you, if I understood well, also you actually have a fund to invest, like, so it's a corporate. At the end of the day, the port of Ashdod is a corporation, it's a company, so you also can invest in startups.
Actually, yes, we have found a CVC. It's a company venture capital that actually we have like a budget of $3 million that we're going to invest in startups. And actually, in this day, I believe that more and more CVC will come to the markets because now the market understands and the ecosystem that you need expertise in the field that you're working on. In this day, VC just invest 30 minutes of presentation and just say, okay, it sound good. But when you have expertise in this field, so this investment are much more smarter and the risk are much lower.
Okay. And how does this help? How can this help, for example, Port of Barcelona, or here the Catalan ecosystem? What you are doing in Israel, and particularly in Ashdod?
It's very easy. We are share with Carlos what we done for free. Of course, we just share with him everything, which technology succeed and which not, and actually. Together, we just established here an embassy of innovation embassy, let's call it this way. And in this embassy, in the ports, we can export and import startup because maybe he could find a great Spanish or Catalonia startup, and he will tell me, okay, just go check it and try it. So we're going to host Spanish startups, and as well as us, I can just share with him, we have 11 cyber, because we are not only a startup nation, we are cyber nation as well. As I know that you just noticed, yes, that like 3 days ago, the Port Authority of London it was a cyber attack over there. So and then I can share my knowledge how to protect cranes and so on with other ports.
How important, Carlos, is for you also this, we spoke about, of course, scalability of solutions, globalization. So how important is it that startups solutions can work not only in Port of Barcelona, but also in other ports?
Yeah, the question is that the logistic business and the maritime business is international, no? So any development, as an example, imagine that we have a startup that takes an innovation here in Barcelona, but it only works in Barcelona, no? So then the shipping line that is stopping in Barcelona, but also in Marseille, in Ashdod, in Singapore, and so on, say, oh, I'm not interested in, because I have to adapt all the ports, no? So at the end, the scalability probably is the critical point in this sector, no? The possibility to move to a proof of concept to an idea implemented and that can be used all around the world, no? And for many companies and for many ports and for many users. So this is the critical point. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm looking also at the room. So if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to put up your hand. Okay, so how do you, we heard in the introduction that investment has been timid, to say the least. On the other hand, in this past year, venture capital globally and also in Europe has doubled in terms of amount invested, not actually in terms of number of investments. So some companies have been attracting a lot of money to revolutionize the sector. We had actually on the tech tour that we did together, Carlos, we had a Latin American company. It was one of two unicorns, so companies that raised so much money that their valuation is more than 1 billion euros, so-called unicorn. So how do you see the investment potential in the sector? These companies that were there in the tech tour that you hosted, Carlos, do you see them actually attracting investment? Do you see them implementing the solutions in the Port of Barcelona, in the Port of Ashdod?
I think that things are changing during the last years. Has changed a lot, no? Now we in Spain have the Port 4.0 fund as an example. That what I'm telling, no? The idea is that this is not a venture capital. I mean, it's not an equity. It's a grant for companies. You can apply. There are some application calls that appear periodically, but they are quite successful, and there are many companies that are being financed for that, and it's a growing investment fund. No, the idea is that you can work in all stages of the development. You can get for an idea till 15,000 euros. For a pre-commercial project, you can get till 1 million euros. And for a commercial project, you can get till 2 million euros. When it was created, nobody knows if it worked, if there were a lot of applications and so on. And the result is the results has been better than the expectations we get at the beginning. So there are interest for startups to work in this sector. Also, Tech Tour that we have had these last 2 years has been also a successful event. So there are many investors, many startups trying to work in this sector. So I think that things are changing, no? Oh, we are more sexy, yeah.
And Roy, in Israel, Israel always has been the top worldwide in terms of investment into startups. Is that also applying in the maritime industry, in the logistics industry in general?
Of course, because I think that investors actually mainly looking for blue ocean, right? They don't want to invest when the market is bleeding or there's a lot of competition. So this is why, because this field, the maritime field, it's actually a blue ocean for startups. It's a blue ocean because, 85 of the goods in the world just cross. It's a big money in the sea. So now, entrepreneur and investor just need to dive and fight it. So I think there is a big opportunity in this area.
Okay, and so what are some of the challenges still holding this back? We heard it's not so sexy. Why is that? We heard some investors saying, Carlos, that the buyers of solutions, innovation solutions, tend to be very conservative. You mentioned it yourself. It has to be a global solution. If it only works in one port, it's nice for a proof of concept, but at the end of the day, they will not really go beyond the experiment. So what are some of the challenges that you both see as the key to be resolved, attracting more investment for startups, for the ports to invest in this?
For me, I think that there are three main elements, three main challenges. No? The first one is globalization, as you said. This is a global business, so you have to work globally. The second one is the lack of standardization, because that it's a hindrance in order to develop solutions that can be universal and so on. So you need to standardize the operations all around the world. And the third one is collaboration, because we are in a collaborative business, so the solutions also has to be collaborative. And for example, if you want to, now one of the biggest problem is the question I did, no? Where is my container? No? To answer this simple question, but that means a lot of people collaborating to give the right information for that. No? And now there are peer platforms in order to get that information to give to the final client and so on. But the problem is that you have to collaborate to get the data you need in order to create new services, new value proposals, and new business models. So these three elements.
Roy?
So I think in the end of the day, we need to have a very holistic point of view, because we need to see about all the ecosystem, and all the players need to come together. And actually, if you are just look at it, it's in the end of the day, it's all about people, It's people who know people, who know people, who know people, and this is how the world is working actually. So if we just talk with each other, like these events, your events, just speak with Carlos, and if he can be my friend, And then I think that all the supply chain, when we're going to have an infrastructure of people, of human being, then it's going to work.
Yeah, it's always the right people working together with the right people. So, of course, with the event of the last 2 days, we made an effort for start, so let's hope we can continue. I think the organizer is giving me the sign that the time is up. The time is up. I would like to ask you to give a big round of applause to these two innovation leaders from the two leading ports in the Mediterranean.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm really sorry we can be here all morning talking about this. Many thanks for sharing with us your experience. And I would like to highlight this fact that Carlos Rua shared, that maritime transport represents the 3% of emissions, but concentrates the 90% of the international transports. And It's also been very enlightening, the idea of collaborating between your ports. You say it, Roy, because at the end you are facing similar challenges. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.